Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of earthly proportions. As I sit here on the surface of Gaia, in the Toronto scope of things, notice my background, Lake Ontario. This lake tells a story so engrossed, so entrenched in the historical feats of all of the reasons why lightworkers are beginning to awaken one by one in the Toronto fields. And as I touch base on this story, on these stories, just know that if you've come across my content, if you had ever awakened and wondered if you are the type of light worker that I speak about, that I speak to in this very moment in time, just know that there's a high chance and a high probability that you probably are. You probably are a light worker so infinite in your scope of perception fields that's dropped down into this perception field of within Gaia's field to awaken during the transcendence of the negative frequencies and the lower dimensional feats within her frequency range that she's decided to drop down into in the beginning of time, in the beginning of her time, within a scope of no time, as time is not existent within our quantum verse. And as I sit here to tell you the story of why you're here, why I'm here, why we're interjecting into each other's fields in this very moment in time, as most likely than not, you've come across my video in this lifetime. And in this very lifetime that you've been able to perceive my content to be all that it's ever been, just know that within this perception field, within all perception fields, within the next perception fields, that you will begin to doubt yourself, undoubtedly. The doubt that you hold is monumentally great, grand, and large. It can never subsede the consciousness that you are in this very moment in time, no matter who you are, no matter how much you've awakened to your destination, to your destiny. You still live in an entrenched, engrossed essence within this essence scape and scope of tomorrow's ascension symptoms within today's ascension scope of a lower vibrational field, in which a massive layer of a distortional field has been overlaid over our reality field within the beginning of time for you to sit in, for us to belong to, for us to sit in. For the all, within the entirety of the all, tells a great story of a doubtful energy that we sit in. And as my upstairs neighbor hammers away at whatever construction they need to do to their house, just know that the tapping that you hear is construction, had always been a discrepancy field within this video. I'm going to try to edit it out, so hopefully the background noise won't show up so much. But as I sit here, a little bit snuffly in the nose, I would like to declare to you that I'm not sick per se, but the detoxification process within my bodily structure has begun, and into succession within the nights of all nights and the mornings of all mornings, I've been receiving signs and signals of these so-called reactions that I've been reacting to with physical signs during the day, in the evenings, at night, with this fatigue, with intolerability to certain foods, certain products, just an overall essence of unwellness and an unrested feeling. And as you begin to awaken, as the sun's energies begin to beam down on us ever so greatly, as it has done so for millennia, for cycles and cycles of evolutionary feats, the sun has ever so greatly beamed its energies down onto a whole entire civilization, sitting in the essence of forgetfulness within the engrossed field that we dropped down into. We had agreed once upon a time to drop down into this essence of forgetfulness, to not remember a beginning far greater, far more excessive, far exceeding that of our very own beginning of our birth story within this physicality of ours. And as I speak of births, one of my best friends, Janice, is right now in labor. So we wish her well as she is delivering a baby today, and that baby is monumentally special to humanity. And the story that shall be told will be told in subsequent videos in regards to the energetic fields of our babies and the ones that are coming into this lifetime during the time of the Great Ascension, and the types of energy that they are expected to uphold and hold within our frequency field. And I know that it may be a little bit incongruently real or whole to expect a baby to be born with a process of elimination, with the process of a purpose, with the process of any purpose, but to stimulate itself towards the growth into adulthood. But as you know, we are interdimensional souls. We're epically real. We're epically grand in our proportionate feet in regards to the way we behave in this human body and encompass our light in this human body. As we come into memories, we will come into the realization of how epically proportionate this light is to the reality field of the whole. But until then, we'll sit in an air of mystery as we wander about and feel into the essence of these newly born babies that will come into our reality field with intent, with intention so great in all that it's ever been to carry God's light, a source frequency so distortional in itself that within this distortional field, it can never be recognized for what it has always been. And I tell you this as my friend is in labor, and yet this refers to all babies who are being born in this frequency as they carry this light. In no possible way in 2025, almost end of November, can a baby be delivered into this realm coming from the consciousness of the lower dimensional field. As ladies and gentlemen, we have begun to retract our olive branch away from the two-dimensional, three-dimensional creatures, entities, energies, from our entire quantum verse to not be able to fractal out and encompass a physicality of sorts within the physicality of Gaia itself, herself. So exciting times and exciting news is here that each and every baby delivered to a mother, whether or not that mother is from the darkness of what is, from the brightness of what is, from a neutrality consciousness, from the scope of confusion, from all different walks of life, will be inherently bright in its soul blueprints in a way that can allow it to shift back to source consciousness at the time in which we retract our consciousness back into one. The darkness that has been here for eons and eons of evolutionary cycles. And within all of those cycles, they've been able to expand and shift and be born monumentally great, monumentally large, into babies' bodies, into human bodies, and grown into entire societal fields within our field. And yet, the conceptualization and the concept of the darkness being born and the expansiveness of the ever so greatness concept of the expansion process within any energy field sits a story to be holds a story to be told. Tongue twister. And as I sit here to tap into all of the stories within a humanity field of graciousness, of gratefulness, of ungratefulness, of stories within a lightworker scope of things, I wish Janice a smooth delivery, as I know that she's most likely already delivered her baby as I tap into her energy field. And as soon as this video ends, I'm gonna message her. But the sweetness that will become the entity, the energy of all of these babies will carry us back up into a 5-dimensional frequency within coherence, within the coherence of it all. And the oversouls that are projected with these projects of deciphering what wholeness truly means as they drop their consciousness and fractal out parts and portions of it themselves into our frequency to embody the bodies of these new babies that are being born in a time of transition so vast, so great within our quantum verse that the entire Galactic Federation would like to congratulate us on this monumental moment as I sit here, as my friend Janice has given birth to her new baby. As all moments tell a great story of all great stories within a story scope of all stories, her baby tells a story of a God's consciousness, of source consciousness that had once upon a time decided to fractal out into this reality field of all reality fields. And don't get me wrong, all babies do the same. And it is in the process of her giving birth that I've come into this realization of such. And the beauty of the story of it all can never encompass the preciousness within this baby's auric field, of the light that she holds, of the light that he holds, of the light that they hold, as an entire generation of babies becomes a deliverance in the delivery process within. I'm getting a call. I'm just going to gently reject it. In the delivery process within consciousness itself. As stories are as wide as they are broad, I would like to bring up a concept here that we may or may not have ever realized within our scope of things, that babies are born every single day in the thousands, in the hundreds of thousands. Perhaps most of them have been registered to a system and most have not. Leading up to the ascension process, the stifling of these births will begin to ramp up and pick up in frequency, in coherency and contingency, so wide, so broad, so large, in all that it has ever done, in all that the Luciferian blueprint has ever done, to try to stifle the life inside God's frequency source of what is. And as they do so, just know that depopulation has always been a reality field within the field of the darkness. Just know that they will try to stifle our energy, to stifle this God's light that is being pushed out onto Earth's surface within any moment in time as a woman labors and delivers a baby. The congruency in the specialness of the deliverance of these babies is that the tribulations that we will walk through will need to jump loops, will need to hop hoops to be able to stop all that is coming. To be able to stop all that is so deserving within a humanity field that's been so engrossed and entrenched in the darkness of what is for all this time. And a story will be told in essence of stopping, in essence of wanting to stop, in essence of almost achieving the stop of the majorities of the babies that are set to be born within this dimensional frequency. As mothers go along with their pregnancies, they will be brainwashed to either want to abort the baby or kill the baby upon delivery. Brainwashed into a society field where postpartum depression can become a reality if you were to tap into the socialism within the structuralism of our society for far too long. To be worked to death, half to death, and have to worry about taking care of a newborn. To sit perhaps in a family of no family scope and have to worry about putting food on the table, all the while nursing a new baby. To sit in the hospital bed and having to worry about a nurse interjecting into the bonding process between a mother and her new baby every 3 to 4 hours of the new baby's life. To sit within the pushing process of delivering this baby with nurses in the room, trained to spread our legs open and lay on our back and put pressure on our spine. To sit in a rocking chair trying to nurse these babies that are being fed formula on their first day of life in a hospital structure. To sit in a mother's shoes is the most difficult positioning any woman can sit in 2025, 2026, and 2027, leading up to the ascension process of what is. And I tell you this not just because they've targeted our children. I tell you this because the next step on the agenda is to target these fragile souls that act as the deliverance of this energetic field, of this angelic light, of this God source frequency, via the physicality of being able to push out a creation in the scope of our frequency in these times. They are hormonal, as they've gone through monumental changes in their bodies. I know so because I've had 4 of them. 5, not counting the loss of our third that didn't progress into anything viable. But I know this with all of my heart and all of my soul, that being a mother is the most important job in the world, and that giving birth and delivering a baby is the most fragile time within a woman's life. Respect the women around you. Take care of the new mothers in your society field as you walk down the street and open a door. Be sure to also open that door for the lady that's pushing a stroller. As you open that door for that elderly, be sure to also wipe that table for the lady that is struggling to find a table with her newborn child. As you're at the park struggling with your own children, as you are more sane, as your children are older, be sure to also keep a lookout for your neighbor's children. As the world can be a very dark place, but not so much so as we come into the realization that we are one, that your children are my children, that my children are indefinitely your children, to behold, to be told, to be held, and to energetically protect. Only the darkness of what is will try to tear these rights away from us women, us men, us as an entirety of a society field. So if you feel like something is off in the energy fields of a woman next to you, be there for her, hold her hand, guide her through this process. As the world was never designed, as the world had never been designed to hold her hand through the entirety of it all. And as more and more women begin to tap into the essence of what it would be like to hire a midwife, instead of go towards the official medical route to deliver their babies, just know that there had never been a better decision to hire a doula and a midwife and to deliver that baby at home. As when you're in the hospital, you're engrossed and entrenched in the structuralism of it all. And the way nature proceed for us women to deliver these babies in peace and tranquility, to not detach our connection by chopping off the umbilical cord at such a young point in life, immediately after birth, to not withhold the motherly bond by taking the baby away within the first few minutes of life, few seconds of life, to wrap them in a cloth before handing your baby down onto your chest. All of that stunts the connection between a woman and her newborn baby. Just know that you deserve to birth in the comfort of your own home, as my friend Janice has so bravely done so with all of her children. Just know that you deserve to be held by your husband while holding this baby as soon as this baby drops out, if the umbilical cord can be long enough to reach. If not, you will have to, of course, first birth your placenta so that you're able to be nature, be a part of nature, how nature intended for you to be. And as we proceed on to the hardest times within a humanity field, that will undoubtedly struggle on the motherly scope of things, on the parenting scope of things, on the attack of our children and our mothers to be, Just know that God has a plan. God is here through these light workers. God is here in energy. God is here even if light workers had not decided to drop down into this field. God is you, God is I, God is all, in the all that you could ever perceive to be real and true. And as I sit here to tell you the story of mothers and the incompleteness of our souls, to know or not to know of the darkness in our children's frequency, just know that some of you will awaken to come to a realization that your children are not of the light. Though created from a God source consciousness, they sit on a lower distortional field, blueprint-wise. Just know that there's no greater pain than a mother's pain as she comes into this realization that she birthed someone with a Luciferian blueprint. Just know that all is well, all is neutrality, and all serves a purpose towards your awakening. Just know that this Luciferian blueprint within consciousness itself serves as great of a story point, of a lesson point, of a learning point to humanity in itself, versus these babies that are born with a higher frequency blueprint of God's blueprint prior to the fractaling off of the Luciferian blueprint that we so know far too well in our reality field to be the darkness within and without our consciousness in this very moment in time. And as you come into the memory of why you had chosen to welcome the darkness into your family, as it has been quite some time, epically distortionally in this field, that a family that you've known or have not known did not have the opportunity or possibility of encompassing the darkness through and through. It has been quite some time since the fractaling off of Gaia into this frequency field that allowed her to hold all of this darkness through and through in a 50% projected ratio within our very own source blueprint of 50% darkness and the 50% brightness of what is. And as we sit here in an era where most babies that are being born, with the exception of the ones that have yet to be conceived, are still within the darkness of what is. As the olive branches begin to retract back, ladies and gentlemen, according to my calculations, based on my frequency field, 11/11, November 11th, 2025 was the moment that any and all babies that become conceived moving forward from that moment in time will indefinitely be of a source blueprint prior to the fractaling off of the Luciferian blueprints. And yet, if you were able to conceive a child prior to that, prior to November 11th, 2025, just know that there's a high chance and a high probability that your child might or might not be able to hold a Luciferian blueprint, which is more common than not within our blueprinted reality of 50% darkness and 50% brightness of what is. And as you come into a realization of why you've chosen to welcome the darkness into this world, you will find forgiveness like you've never ever been able to tap into that forgiveness in your soul ever before. And the forgiveness that you feel will come from your heart chakra, will come from the hope and the faith that you have in God, in source, and the story scope, and the delinquency field that we created for ourselves to serve a purpose to the entirety of the whole, sitting in a neutrality perspective. So as you judge yourself for that in which you do not know as of yet, have grace, be gracious, be a recommendation of what grace really means, be a feeling of how grace behaves in this frequency field, be an ideation of grace in itself as you tap into the ideation of the meaning of grace deep in your heart chakra as we lift this doubt frequency from our fields that is set to lift post-solar flash near the end of this year and the beginning of 2026. Exciting times are ahead. I'm in the 24-minute mark in my video. And I would just like to say, if you've made it this far, as I do say in every video, congratulations. 97% chance that you are a light worker, because I caught your attention, because this frequency deserves, craves for the tapping in of this attention from these light workers who belong fully and wholly within the same frequency that I project. As time passes, as time flies by, as it ever so swiftly does, monumentally so, without a second's bypassed, without our distortional fields being able to collapse back in on itself, time passes monumentally so within our fields. You will come into a realization of the light working scope that you drop down into, to come into a realization and a monetization within the monetary means of what that can mean in your field. And yet I'm here to tell you that as you come into alignment with your ultimate destination, you will come into a realization that the monetization, that the worry for funds, that the worry for money, that the worry that you won't have a roof over your head will begin to dissipate. As you are divinely guided, as you are in synchronicity with your soul's calling, your soul's belonging, had you been a light worker, you would already be set prior to awakening to come into this alignment, to have everything fall into place for you, not to have to worry within the physicality of what is, to be able to uphold this roof over your family, over your babies, as you begin to slowly awaken, had you chosen to step into your path of belonging. There's a high chance that you might not, that you might tap into this frequency and be in denial, that the darkness that's here, that had always been here to awaken you through and through, has done its dirty work on your consciousness to a point where you've had too much fun in Lucifer's backyard, in Luciferian layer of what is on Gaia's surface. That made you want to stay a little bit longer. That made you want to participate a little bit steeper. That made you want to hide a little bit greater than who you perceive your energy fields to be able to expansiveness within the expansiveness of it all expand into. And the being that you are and who you perceive that you are shall always be who you will never ever cease not to be. But as long as you use your free will to choose to turn away from God's light, from God's source, from God's energy, from God's olive branch, you will undoubtedly, no matter who you are, if you're a light worker or not, choose to steer away from God's land and sink a little bit deeper in Lucifer's backyard, in Lucifer's lair, in the Luciferian blueprint of our reality field, expanding on the darkness that you're holding rather than portraying it into the light, to release of the work around, the work about, the working nature of this darkness, to shrink it and release of it from your auric fields. You will be triggered to expand the darkness of what is, had you chosen not to step into your light working frequency. And that, not to fearmonger you, is a difficult path for light workers who choose to turn the other direction, who choose to turn a blind eye to all of the signs and signals that their higher self have been showing them, walking them through the frequencies of the Galactic Federation as their space family begins to awaken them into their mission, into their ultimate calling, but then to be so enthralled in the messaging scope of a humanity's past, present, and future trajectory of a Luciferian blueprint and be lost and confused, had always been who you were made to be. And yet the strength inside you, had you not wanted to come into a realization of the hope that you intrinsically hold, will diminish, will undoubtedly diminish, had you not wanted to work on the awakening process of the shadow work that sets out the first step within the cobblestone road that you must project your energy field out of, to be able to even encompass the light of truths unfunded and steeped in hope and steeped in God's light, as you play around too deeply in the Luciferian layer of what is. I tell you this not to scare you. I tell you this to be realistic with you, that not all light workers who've dropped down into this field will embrace this light. Rightfully so, as this reality field will ramp up in darkness to trap light workers under this field, to not ever be able to awaken through fame, through money laundering, through gracefulness lost, through temptations, through lies, through energetic stifling of a brainwashing mechanism within the matrix that keeps us so tapped in within our energy field to have this matrix be fed off of our energy bodies. It is not until you disconnect yourself completely and congruently to go against the grain that you will grow exponentially as this olive branch that had retracted from God's frequency out of the Luciferian realm begins to funnel into the light workers' energy bodies as a collective. You have a choice. And that choice that you make to take that first step down this cobblestone road that you require to make to even retract your consciousness back into the light, to shrink the darkness, to do this shadow work that is so inherently built within you. That choice you make according to the first step of things within your reality field dictates the entirety of your experience here on earth as we head towards the ascension symptoms and syndromes of what is. Had you not made a choice, had you not come to the realization that there is a choice, had you consciously made a choice, congratulations, as you are a light worker and you've made it this far and you've come into the realization that at least it's up to you. But at least you were brave enough and strong enough to make a stand based on the epic faultiness within your perception fields, to make a decision to stay a little bit longer or leave this all behind and tap into the frequency field of God's energy field within these olive branches that will exponentially spread and begin to fuel all of the light workers within this field with no energy source as big as this energy source that has congruently and multiplicity wise begin to funnel God's light, angelic light into our fields. Whether or not you decide to tap into it is completely up to you. You have free will, stifled in the decisionary feet of your oversoul that decided to fractal out a part and a portion of its consciousness to encompass your body. Though you dropped in free will as a volunteer, you still have the honorability of latching onto this free will as a free soul, roaming our dimensional frequency within Gaia's field of the 3-dimensional and 2-dimensional frequency of what is. I really hope this mic is picking up my audio. The banging has stopped, but audio is a thing that I must touch base on as we project ourselves into a higher and higher frequency as the solar flash brings true into our reality field. Your voice may be all that you have in any given moment in time, as your bodily structures have never been so important as what you do with the voice that you encompass in this body. And some of you might say, well, Genesis, what of the deaf and mute? What of people who have no ways to communicate, no ways to be heard, no ways to speak? What of that portion of the population? And by voice, I don't actually mean the gentle coherence of the words that we speak in communicating with each other in the way that we are so used to doing in this frequency field. Your actions count as your voice. Your hope lost in a time of frequency found in the Luciferian blueprinted reality field that we sit in counts as an action standpoint that holds the standpoint of where your voice should be and will be directed towards near the end of a story that leads to a new beginning within Gaia's field. Whether or not you have the physicality of the voice does not matter. But use this power, ladies and gentlemen, to make the right decision. Don't put one toe in Lucifer's pond, in God's backyard, on God's front porch, in God's frequency field, and still expect to be doted on by this energy of God that is becoming frivolently so in the monumental scope of the way it's been feeding into the light bodies of these light workers that I speak to. Reality doesn't work this way, ladies and gentlemen. Upon free will, there will be a deception field so great that will try to rip you away from God's bosom in God's front yard, in our reality field where all of consciousness belongs to God. And yet, as you take a stand in this creation field of the 50-50 scope of darkness and brightness that we've created within God's consciousness to experience and learn and grow from all of that, decide wisely, but don't decide until you tap into your heart chakra. Don't decide with your mind. Don't decide with your brain. Don't decide with anything you know not to trust, not to feel out, not to know inherently within your soul that it is the right decision to be made. As incongruencies will speak for themselves as we shift towards the ascension syndromes of what is, and some of you light workers have tapped out on your missions to a point where you've missed out on your time frame to make a difference, depending on the goal that your oversoul has set out for that expansion process to happen in your field, to lead you to your ultimate destination. Some of you have rejected to take that torch, which is fine. No judgments here. But just know that at the end of a time that leads to a new tomorrow, that torch had always been yours. It can never be stifled away or given away to anyone but for you to hold. And even as you actively reject it, it's still there had you wanted to do that work, to take that first step down that cobblestone road. As your intention, your voice, even though you've missed your time frame to step into your ultimate mission, depending on the goal your oversoul set to drop you into this reality field, will count more than any words, any physicality of a word that you can project into this field. Your intentions speak all, is all, are all of the frequencies in the conglomeration of what is. Had you chosen to tap into God's field, you are all. You will fill into the all, and God will never stifle the light of someone with the frequency of hope, of faith that you hold in God's chakra system to connect you back into the meaning of creation itself through these energy portals of what is. So at the end of the night, at the end of long evenings, tap back in to your heart chakra that's so much so connected. Drop into this space. Go through that tunnel. The borders of your heart chakra will connect you to where you need to go, all the while protecting you from all of the darkness outside of it. Tap out of your mindscape and tap into your heart chamber and go back to God, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, good morning, good night, good afternoon, wherever you are. I will indefinitely touch back with another story, but for now I'm gonna message Janice because I know she's delivered that little girl and I know how precious that moment can be. And I love you all. I will be back. Have a wonderful day wherever you are.